Are you ready to elevate your leadership journey through exploring the wisdom of the ages? Subscribe to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast on all major podcast platforms, including Apple iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube Music. You can also find us everywhere else podcasts are available. If you find value in our episodes, please leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. We need those reviews to grow, and it is truly the easiest way to help other leaders and lovers of literature discover this show. And thank you for your support. Introduction.
Hello. My name is
Solipsism,
and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast, shorts. There's no co-host on these shorts episodes. We have extended the time on these shorter episodes from 5 to 6 minutes to 15 to 20 minutes for this season. This is so that these shorts can serve as introductory episodes released ahead of our weekly, longer form episodes. But don't worry, I will still let you know my observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and even the theology of leadership, particularly as we prepare for the restoration of leadership and leadership principles during the next historical high in America. Why these episodes? Well, because listening to me talk about leadership for now around 15 to 20 minutes is still better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book. Even that business book that you bought with that famous person's name as the author, but you haven't applied any of the principles from that book to your leadership practices. At least not yet.
There are some people who lack self-awareness. They do not have a conception of themselves as actors in the world. They don't have a conception that what they do actually impacts other people in the world. Then there are those people that are operating at a deeper level. They are what we call solipsistic. A definition is necessary here, so hopefully this works from Wikipedia. And I quote, "Solipsism is the philosophical idea that only one's mind is sure to exist. There is no shared reality. As an epistemological position, solipsism holds that knowledge of anything outside one's own mind is unsure. The external world and other minds cannot be known and might not exist outside the mind." Close quote. As a philosophical designation, solipsism, as a definition for these people who we would traditionally say lack self-awareness, works better as a descriptor than the persistent psychological diagnosis in our postmodern internet-driven communication world, where the diagnosis of narcissism is used as a discourse-stopping epithet of our current political and even cultural moment. There is an idea embedded in that solipsism definition from Wikipedia that infants are naturally imbued with solipsism, but that they mature eventually into a theory of mind about other people as they develop. By the way, in case you don't remember, theory of mind is the psychological idea that a person can develop the capacity to understand other individuals by ascribing or by imprinting mental states upon them. A theory of mind includes the understanding that other people's beliefs, desires, intentions, emotions, and thoughts may indeed be different from one's own. They may indeed exist in the first place. Solipsism dispenses with all of that. And to a certain extent, to grow out of solipsism and to grow into a robust theory of mind, a person, an individual, must be faced relentlessly and ruthlessly with resistance, challenges, and disagreements from other people. Not only in discourse, not only in conversation, not only in disagreement, but also deeply in practical reality, with, of course, practical consequences. This is where the power of negotiation comes in, of course. And a failure to develop a theory of mind of other people leads to a decrease in self-awareness and a loss of what we call these days empathy. Speaking of which, our author this week is the writer, essayist, and cultural observer of the last half century, born in 1938 and died in 2021, Joan Didion. And in a notorious 1980 essay, Joan Didion, Only Disconnect, the critic, Barbara Grizzuti Harrison, called Didion, quote, a neurasthenic share, unquote, whose style was, quote-unquote, a bag of tricks, and whose subject, quote-unquote, is always herself. In essence, Grizzuti Harrison called Didion solipsistic and described her as lacking in empathy for other people. She didn't have to resort to the rhetorical play of describing her as narcissistic because the accusation stuck. Matter of fact, it was so close to the target that years later, many years later, in the early 21st century, in a New Yorker article about Didion, the journalist mentioned that the criticism, quote, still gets her, meaning Didion's, hackles up decades later, close quote. Joan Didion prided herself on being able to write a sentence about subjects, ideas, and material topics that were at the edges. In her essay about writing, written for the New York Times, titled Why I Write, from 1976, she has this telling quote, I do not think in abstracts. During the years when I was an undergraduate at Berkeley, I tried with a kind of hopeless late adolescent energy to buy some temporary visa into the world of ideas, to forge for myself a mind that could deal with the abstract. In short, I tried to think. I failed. My attention veered inexorably back to the specific, to the tangible, to what was generally considered by everyone I knew then, and for that matter have known since, the peripheral. I would try to contemplate the Hegelian dialectic and would find myself concentrating instead on a flowering pear tree outside my window and the particular way the petals fell on my floor. I would try to read linguistic theory and would find myself wondering instead if the lights were on in the Bevatron up the hill. When I say that I was wondering if the lights were on in the Bevatron, you might immediately suspect, if you deal in ideas at all, that I was registering the Bevatron as a political symbol, thinking in shorthand about the military-industrial complex and its role in the university community, but you would be wrong. I was only wondering if the lights were on in the Bevatron and how they looked. A physical fact. If a person cannot think of abstract ideas or think in abstract ideas, if a writer cannot think in abstract ideas, how can a writer, a journalist, a person be an accurate witness of how other people are behaving when they behave in fundamentally abstract ways? And if a person, a journalist, a writer, cannot be an accurate witness, how can they possibly possess any practical, tactical, and useful empathy? In our time, deep in the year 2026, deep in the social media-driven, very online culture of 2026, we've all imbibed too much, far too much, of the Didion Kool-Aid. And it's easy to lay the blame at her feet, but it's not just her, it's a lot of people. The solipsistic lack of a theory of mind that causes all of us to resort to terms like narcissistic, fascist, or even racist when we are confronted by the reality of minds that work differently than our minds do is endemic. which we neither know nor understand fully anyway. Lacking self-awareness and bristling with the confidence bred from fragile egos buttressed by trophies for just showing up, we are inevitably confronted by a world of abstractions and, of course, a world where a need for practical, not marketed empathy is highly necessary. And, of course, because we have fragile egos and because we are solipsistic and, of course, we lack self-awareness and empathy, we are unable to summon up the will, the desire to grow that empathy and to force ourselves to do the hard things necessary to grow in that empathy in real ways. And so, we are witness to events we cannot understand in our devices, in between scrolls on our social media feeds, and all is reduced to entertainment that either makes us feel good or doesn't make us feel good. These two designations, these feeling good designations, are not enough to shake us out of our socially induced ennui, reinforced atop a foundation of solipsism thick enough these days to choke an elephant. And maybe this is where nihilism and absurdity with deconstructionism at scale ends us up as a society. And maybe there's a lot of work we need to do in order to fix this. And well, that's it for me. Order my latest book, 12 Rules for Leaders, The Foundation of Intentional Leadership, with Bradley Madigan. This book offers insights, ideas, and presents a framework for addressing the most pressing challenges in the postmodern leadership landscape we are navigating today. Pick up the paperback, hardcover, or ebook everywhere you buy books, and leave a review on Amazon. And thanks.